My beetroot so far haven't actually done very well, and we'll go over why that is in a second. However, your beetroot is likely to be ready to start harvesting as baby beets, or maybe even it's starting to get a little bit bigger by now as well. So as well as looking at actually harvesting some beetroot, so the beetroot I'm going to be harvesting today is the one that has bolted, just to show you how we'll do that from the multi-sown beetroot. And then we'll also want to have a look at sowing some more as well. It's getting towards the middle of July at the moment, and that is pretty much the cut-off point for me. I haven't found that they do as well later on, but you may find that an early variety like Boldardi or something like that will be okay, depending where you are. My first lot of beetroot I actually planted in a position that wasn't ideal for them. It ended up being a little bit too overshadowed. Some are looking okay, and I do have baby beets forming, but they're not at the stage that I would like them to be at. I also have some of the winter som, the yellow variety, that have started to run to seed. And then my next sowing, the dog actually started digging up while he was playing with the cat in the garden during the heat wave. He's a spaniel, so of course he's desperately wanting to get out and do stuff, so you can't really blame him. So this is the first of the patch that we sowed earlier on and that we planted together, and actually the ones in the middle aren't doing too badly, and that's likely because the potatoes either side haven't actually overcrowded them too much, but the ones on the side are definitely a little bit more behind. And then we can see here that we also have some that have gone to seed. They're not the most pretty flowers to actually save for pollinators or anything like that. Beetroot is biennial, so we don't want to save the seeds from them from these bolted plants. So having a look further down, you can start to see that the beetroot is starting to form down here. So at the moment they're at the size of sort of baby beets. The ones that were in the shade a little bit aren't really showing anything yet. This is the winter som variety. These are about the size of baby beets as well. But this stem that we can see here is where we are finding that it's bolting. So you'll find a main stem that comes up, and then at the top we'll find that it's going to have a flower head on it. I do want my beetroot to get a little bit bigger before I do harvest them, because we're going to be pickling them. If you want them to be harvested as baby beets, then of course that's absolutely fine, and you can harvest them when they're small. We did a multi-sown clump, so to take just one from that clump, just hold the rest of them gently. You might want to twist it and just move that beet out from the clump, and then that leaves the rest of the clump without the roots too disturbed or anything like that, and they will continue growing. I am going to continue to move more of these that have bolted. That one's just starting to bolt, which is a bit of a shame. It may be that this variety is actually more prone to bolting. I'm not sure. That one hasn't bolted, but it has sadly been pulled out now. Once we've harvested our beetroot, we next want to actually twist the leaves off rather than cut them. This is going to help keep the moisture in the bulb while we wait to cook them. It can also avoid any of the colour bleeding out of the bulb, particularly with the red varieties, into the leaves. So just twist it. This is going to be harder, of course, because I've got a bolted one, and break the stems off. Once you've harvested your beets, they will store very well in a plastic bag, like an old broke bag or something like that, in the fridge perfectly well. Don't wash them, just leave them as they are until you're ready to cook them. And if they are in there for a little bit too long, then the tops may go a little bit horrible, so do keep an eye on that as well. When it comes to cooking them, we can just chop the bottom and the top off and roast them whole, or if you do want to remove the skin for pickling and things like that, then boil them and then chop it off and slide that skin off. They're really easy for that skin to come off. Don't forget, if you've got some leaves that are looking pretty good, then they are completely edible as well, and the stem can be used basically like chard, or pop the leaves into salad. If you have found that they have bolted, or you haven't found that they've done very well from being sown into cell trays, then the next thing we're going to do is direct sow them into the ground, and you may find that they work a lot better for you. So I'm going to go grab my seeds and then we'll have a look at sowing them. This is the bed that I'm going to be planting in this evening. It was originally my onion bed for my overwintering onions. They came out last week, so now I'm ready to start planting in it again. I've got a little chicory down in the corner here and then just some sweet alyssum around the edges. To prep the bed, I've given it a very, very good water. It was extremely dry, and then I've added a little bit of compost onto the top, about an inch, and we will be giving it another water as well, and I will be keeping this very, very well watered until these seeds germinate as well. The seeds that we've been using in this grow along are both suitable for sowing in July. If you are concerned about that, then just check your packets and see what they say, but obviously the weather changes, conditions change, so it's worth giving it a try. And then all we need to do is make a drill. So I'm just using a dibber here, and I'm going no deeper than an inch. I'm going to sow 2 rows of each variety. Rows are about 8 to 12 inches apart from one another. So I'm just aiming to drop one seed about every inch and then to be thinned out later on. Beetroot seeds will last a couple of years, so don't feel like you need to use them all. We can hold on to them for next year's sowings. And then we're simply going to gather that compost back over and just gently pat it down to make sure it's got good contact with the soil. Don't forget just to add a little marker so you don't end up planting anything in the same spot. And then the next thing I'm going to do is give them another really good water. Once they are watered in really well, one of your options as well is to add a cardboard box over the top. You could also use a piece of wood, that would be absolutely fine, but this just holds the moisture in. But you need to make sure it's really wet before you do this, and keep an eye on when the sprouts come out. As soon as you see those beetroot germinate, remove it. It may also cause an area where you have a lot of slugs, so if that's a problem, then you may need to remove it and just keep watering. Don't forget you can use grey water, so if you're in a hosepipe ban at the moment, then grey water is absolutely fine. So that's anything that we do our washing up in, as long as you're using an eco-friendly washing up liquid, or things like bath water and stuff like that. Once again, you are going to want to consider making sure that the products that you use in the bath are going to be safe to use on veg. Our grey water is mainly used for our flowers. Try the cardboard hack. You're just going to lay some cardboard down and give both sides a really good water. And then you're just going to add a stone onto the top just to make sure it's weighed down. Once your direct sown beetroot has got to about this size, that's the point at which I'm going to start looking at whether or not we need to thin them. So just thin them as they start getting bigger until they are finally sort of 4 inches apart in the row. So this one here would want to be thinned out, and that's if you want to grow them as singles. But if you're growing them in a multi germ, then 3 to 4 will be absolutely fine in each cluster. They'll just need a little bit more space between them. So for this one's going to come out because I don't have the space between them for this variety. This is a long variety from the Heritage Seed Library, and then we can eat the leaves on the top there. And then finally, I just wanted to quickly talk about saving beetroot for seed. Beetroot is a biennial, so you need the roots to either survive in a root cellar, sand, or in the ground, then replant them in their second year. We will try to do that with one of these 2 varieties. However, if we do have a really hard winter, then that might be difficult. These ones had a really gentle winter, and then they were just replanted. You can see the roots there at the bottom, and they're actually really large roots, and you do need a minimum amount of plants in order to do this. And then you're just going to leave them to grow, produce their flowers, and then in the end, their seed.